Welcome to Business Meets Life. We have a new episode with amazing Mustafa, and you can see the beautiful skyline behind us. We are in Shanghai. Mustafa, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How about you?
Very good, thanks. So we have a fellow German here, but you have traveled all around the world. You have built up so much for your work in India, in China. So tell me a little bit more about those projects.
All right. So, first of all, in 2018, when I came to China, we started a joint venture at that time. And we did not have anything here in Asia. So, I had to really first acquire a team. And to say that what is most important is it's not a one-man show. So, even though I'm leading it, there is a big team behind it. And that is very important for such kind of things. So, we set up a headquarters here in Shanghai. We set up a legal entity for the factory, which is in Kunshan, which we still have today. And then we set up locations in Bangalore, in India, and also in Korea and in Japan.
Wow.
Important for this whole thing is that you need to have a good plan and you need to stick to the plan. You need to have a good team behind it, and you need to have consultants. Because, I mean, especially setting up legal entities in China is nothing simple. Let's put it in that word. You really have to have consultants with you that know the Chinese laws and know about how to set up a company.
Well, you've already given us some very good advice. Now, I'd like to go a little bit deeper into where do you think have been the biggest challenges? And maybe has there been a part where you could say, I've even failed? Because, I mean, you come from the opposite culture, basically. You probably don't even speak Hindi or like Chinese fluently.
That's true, yes. I mean, like I said, you need to first have a really good plan behind it. Once you have the plan, it's very important that you really talk to the governments. Because like here in Shanghai, for instance, that was also quite new for me. All the districts are somehow competing against each other. You need to negotiate with them. You need to see which ones are really willing to accommodate you in their district that can help you with a lot of tax topics. But it's not that it is failed or anything. We were quite good. But I have to say that jumping into this role, I mean, I had a global role before in Germany in the headquarters. And then when I took over this position as CEO at that time for this joint venture in Asia Pacific, it was something completely new for me. So I had to learn a lot of things for myself. Good thing was I got a really good experienced team behind it. And I also had really good consultants that supported us. And that really helped the whole matter.
Interesting. Can you share a couple of numbers with us?
Yeah, sure. So when we started, as I said, we did not have any kind of business. We took over a plant that was running, but that was producing different kind of products. And it was in the low million digits, like less than 20 million euro. And within 5 years, we grew this like 5 folds. And today we are at that level. It went down a little bit due to the COVID crisis and then also the joint venture. Today, the joint venture is not existing anymore. As usual for joint ventures, usually you have a 5-year lifespan. Then it goes into the stock market, or it's been sold, or it's been stopped. For our case, we have been sold. We are today OP Mobility, which is a French company and a completely new environment, of course. But that's about the numbers that you can expect. And we are growing. Asia is growing. Asia is for the automotive sector a very important region, especially China and India.
Well, congratulations on the growth. I'm happy to see that. I'm wondering, actually, so you mentioned that you came from the headquarters, and I know very often we have this dilemma between working for the headquarters, but being sent abroad and working for maybe the local entity. And you also mentioned that there's a lot of new challenges. How did you prepare yourself for that?
Well, the good thing was, so it was a joint venture between 2 companies, the company that I worked for, Continental, and the other company, which was Osram. Now, before the whole thing started in July 2018, I was already 1 year ahead working in this kind of environment. So I got getting familiar with the products. That is very important for me. I'm an engineer by heart. I love my products, and to be, successful in something, you really need to know your products. And so in 1 year, I was traveling back and forth between China and Germany, but also Japan, Korea, and India, to really talk to the people, to get the people from Osram and from Continental to join, but also from external companies. So it was really the main task that I had to do was really to acquire the team. Once I had established that, I had to make a plan of how the structure is going to look like. And maybe that was the toughest part, because I had to explain to the shareholders, both companies, why this structure is the best structure for Asia. And this took maybe the longest time in the whole process. But then once it was agreed upon, we stuck to the plan, and then we set it out. And I would say it was successful. Others would maybe judge it differently. That's okay. In business, there's always this kind of ambiguity. But we have been sold successfully. And I think that's one of the goals of a joint venture, to either go in a stock market or to be sold.
Congratulations again. I find it so interesting because we're both German. I mean, our culture is a lot about like time management, about like plans. We really appreciate processes and plans. Now that I'm an entrepreneur and I come from corporate, from HP, I'm an entrepreneur in China. Very often what I have noticed is you have a plan, but you kind of have to throw it overboard. I mean, you stick to your overall goals, your vision, so on. But I feel like compared to back in corporate and back in Germany or in the Western world, very often it's so tough to stick to that plan. And you've mentioned it like 2-3 times, stick to the plan, not just make the plan, but stick to it.
Yeah.
And the Indian culture and Chinese culture, they're so flexible. I mean, did you not have like a dilemma? How were you like able to actually really stick to that? Because most of us like entrepreneurs here in China, we have this huge challenge. You don't even know what's coming, how life's going to be like or work like in 3 months.
That's true. But you have to embrace also change. So I have to say one thing. When I compare Germany, the working style in Germany, and I don't mean that in any bad way. I'm German. So I grew up in Germany, everything. But and compare it with China, for instance. For me, the main challenge that I had in Germany was basically there is a task, there's something that needs to be done on a technical basis, on a process point of view, manufacturing or whatever in the automotive world. Most of the time, it is for me to push the team. So I'm pushing forward. So what it means is that I need to really make sure that what I'm asking for is delivered. Even though everybody is delivering according to process, it is a kind of like everybody, like, I don't want to make it sound bad, but everybody knows everything in Germany or in Europe, Whereas in Asia, it's a different situation. In Asia, especially in China, what I realize is I give a direction and people immediately buy in and immediately go towards it. Then my task is not to push them, but actually to pull them back in, to not go overboard. That's one of the topics which I really enjoy, because it makes my life a little bit easier, because the people come up with own ideas. Everybody is eager to participate in something. Whereas in Germany, I have to sell. I'm more selling something, and I'm trying to acquire the people. So that's also one of the ways that I handle this. Now, as you said, I'm German. My parents are from Turkey, but we are Kurdish. So I'm also Asian. So
close citizens.
So for me, getting used to China was not that difficult. And getting used to this culture was not difficult. And I really enjoy it because there is constant change, which I like. And there's constant questioning about current processes and how we could further improve. And this is also one of the things that I really embrace. And when coming to China, I would recommend that to everybody.
I already see so many, or I get a lot of amazing feedback and advice from you on how to be a good leader, because it really sounds like you know how to utilize and get the full potential out of your team members. How else would you describe your leadership style or your leadership philosophy?
first of all, I mean, today I'm the president and CEO for OP Mobility Lighting in Asia Pacific.
Yeah.
For me, the title does not mean anything. Yes, of course, it pays my check, it is my position, and I am legal representative. So whatever happens, it falls onto my name, for sure. I take all that responsibility, but in front of my team, I am one of them. That is, for me, very important. I'm a team player. Even though I need to give direction and even though I need to lead and I need to make tough decisions sometimes, maybe decisions that are not liked by everybody because it goes in maybe in a different direction, that is something that I embrace. But I call it, and I heard this many times, and it really describes me quite well, is I call myself, or I like the way of servant leadership. Mm-hmm. So my door is always open. When my door is closed, I'm in a meeting. But other than that, my door is always open. Mm-hmm. My team can always come to me. Everybody can always come to me. And that is not only my direct managers that are directly reporting to me, but everybody can always come to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm always good for a joke, or I'm embracing that. I'm a sociable person and I really embrace that. Mm-hmm. So this is something where I believe that people also resonate with it, and mm-hmm. they kind of like that also about me. At least that's what I believe.
Yeah, actually, this was one of the reasons why I chose to work for HP, because of that part of the culture. Open door policy, no matter which hierarchy somebody is in, you can always like talk to them and discuss things. But here in China and in Japan, we have like very strict hierarchies. And as I'm a corporate trainer, right, very often I really have to make sure when I give my trainings, in order for people to open up, that I can like crack the eyes open and create some change, I really have to make sure that we are not mixing up the different levels, because otherwise the results would be different. So how, I mean, you've already mentioned a couple of ways, but how can you really make sure that you are one of them? Don't you think that your staff will still see you as you are the boss, you are the Lauban, instead of he is one of us?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, essentially you said Japan. Mm-hmm. So I lived many years in Japan, and I did Japanese OEMs for Continental. And Japan is really completely different to China when it comes to management style. It's really a hierarchy. Mm-hmm. Here in China, there is a hierarchy. I fully agree. Especially in Chinese companies that I work with, I can see that kind of hierarchy. Well, we're a foreign company. And what we made sure, or what I made sure when I set up my structure, was not to have too much hierarchy in there. That means not too many levels. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. The second thing is, of course, just by making a structure, you don't change how people perceive you. So you really have to live that kind of way. So if you don't live it every day, and you're kind of like a fake leader in a way, I'm open to you, please tell me, but then that will not work. But if they come to you and they ask you sincerely for something, and you answer and you help, then by example, they will slowly but steadily, people will accept that kind of relationship that you have with them. Mm. And for me, it's also, I mean, it's nothing fake about that. I'm sincerely trying to be part, not only in work, but also privately with my people in the management team, but also below. We play football together. For them, it was a big shock that I play football or soccer.
But together. Come on, you're German. Of course you do.
Exactly, and they were like really shocked, because their managers that they had before would never do that. You know, they would always keep that kind of barrier. But also in doing all kind of funny things together with them. I mean, singing with them, nice. Karaoke or whatever. These kind of things that help, of course, to somehow even out this kind of relationship. In the end, though, I agree with what you're saying fully, is they still see me as the Lauban and as the boss. So, but every once in a while they say, hey, boss, how are you? And I'm like, I'm not the boss, so please call me Mustafa. And then that, oh, so sorry, Mustafa. But it's a bigger organization. And of course, not with everybody, it doesn't work all the time. But it's important that with my first level and maybe the second level, I have that kind of relationship.
I love it. So we're actually at a conference of Exclusive Executive Society where we're a member. And I'm wondering, maybe after the conference, we're going to hear you sing tonight?
Yeah, why not? I love singing.
Really?
Yes, I do.
I didn't know that. Okay, I'm going to get back to this later on. I'm going to remind you. Let's go a little bit into private life. I mean, whenever I texted you to organize this interview, oh, Janine, I'm in India, I'm in Germany, I'm there, I'm there, I'm there, I'm there. I mean, you are all around the world the whole time, and you have 3 kids and a wife. What's your secret to not just being extremely successful in your work, but also to manage your family because they also need time, love, dad, husband?
For sure. Um, a nice part about my job is that it's somehow still flexible. Of course, when I'm traveling, this is difficult. But even when I'm traveling, I mean, lately, for instance, my 2 older kids, they go to do their grammar school in German Abitur. So they need support with some exams. Then there's no other chance than do it via video conference, and I have then the camera up or whatever, and then
Okay.
I work with them. So it's really important for me to be in contact with them and to be of help whenever they need. Other than that, for me, it's really important that when I come home from a stressful work, that at the door I leave work behind. And usually, what I'm trying to do is that when I'm in Shanghai, when I'm not traveling, that I'm home by 6 o'clock, so I can spend my time with my family. And during that time, I try not to have meetings. Of course, I cannot achieve that all the time, but I really try my best to do that. And weekends is clearly only for family. I really try to do whatever I do for myself, like sports or whatever, early in the morning, so that I'm back taking a shower and have breakfast with my family, and so I can spend the time with the family. But you're right. I mean, especially the first few years until COVID, I was traveling a lot. I was basically constantly on the road, setting up the company, setting up the structures, acquiring people, board meetings, and so on and so forth. Europe, India, Japan, Korea, China, and also going to the customers because nobody knew us. So we were a new company. For that, I have to say, and maybe I will say something that people won't like, is for me, the COVID years were the best years because those 2 years were like a reset for me of no traveling whatsoever. And I have the feeling that since then also the family bond is much stronger because I was constantly with the family and I was not traveling. So I was within China. We traveled a lot within China together. So this is, of course, always a challenge with this traveling, but it's also work, and my family understands that this is work and that there is certain things that I need to do, and traveling is part of it.
But it seems like you kind of figured it out. What is the plan? Where are the boundaries between family and work? What I often hear from other executives is they basically, the first thing in the morning, what they do is, or even in the middle of the night, they look at the phone, answer some emails, high blood pressure. The last thing at night before they go to bed is again email or WeChat, whatever it is. It's always the phone, it's always the work, even when they are at home. So I really feel like that this is a very big problem for many executives to really balance that in a healthy way. Although I understand that you have so many responsibilities and teams in several countries. So thanks for sharing.
Maybe just to add that, I mean, it's true. Any time of the day when my phone is on, I check, like I get a notification or whatever. But when I'm with my family, especially when it's during dinner or whatever, unless it's really something very critical and needs my attention or is coming from the headquarters, which is really urgent, I would not do that immediately. And there are certain things that also for myself and for my own well-being, I need to just restrict. Work is important, and it's a big part of my life. I mean, most of my time of the day I'm at work, but it should not consume me completely. I still have my own well-being and I have my family, so there must be a kind of a balance. And if that does not work out anymore, I have to say, if that would not work out for me, if my own well-being and my family life would be shortened because of work, then I would know that this is not the part of or the kind of work that I would like to do.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I mean, you seem pretty young, although very mature, had 3 kids. You have achieved so much in so many different countries already. What's next? Seems like you're already kind of like on top. So what's next?
To be honest, I'm asking myself the same question.
Okay.
So it's
If you need a coach, let me know.
Yes, I will get back to you about that. No, but the point is, you're right. I mean, I'm a president and CEO for a region. The next step would be either to do something worldwide as a global CEO. Whereas I think I'm still too young for that. For a global CEO, especially European companies, I would be like maybe 5 years too young. But what resonates in me is like I have seen automotive since my whole career in automotive in different functions, different companies. Where I'm really curious about is if I could maybe apply all the knowledge that I've applied in the last decades, almost 2 decades now.
In a different industry?
In a different industry. So this is something where I'm quite curious about to understand if maybe I can apply these kind of things in other industries and maybe give my career a different kind of direction and a different kind of boost. This is something.
So I'm wondering if you could do and you could set up something similar again, and maybe you're kind of starting from zero because it's a different industry. Is there something that you would do differently? I mean, you got some learnings, you got burned, you got also good advice, you've done great things before.
What I would maybe do differently, not maybe, what I would definitely do differently is I would involve marketing analysts much earlier than I did during setting up the joint venture. I was at that time, as I said, I had a global role, but I was not a CEO. And I moved into this position knowing that, before I had a management, and this Continental is a big company, right?
Yeah.
And whatever decision they make, there's always fundamental thoughts behind it. There's data behind it. So you go with the flow.
Yeah,
there's nothing that you need to question about. But when we went into the joint venture, I went in with the same kind of, there's the background, there's the people and everything. But we went into a small kind of like startup. So what I would definitely do different is to involve marketing analysts much earlier to understand, or even before setting up, to understand what direction and which product portfolio to go with to really have the best of success in the market.
Interesting. Now, for all the listeners here who want to do and become of what you're representing, is there some kind of advice or some tips that you wish you would have gotten or learned at an earlier stage in your life? And this could be number one, either for, let's say, private life, family life. This could be about work, about anything.
What I learned for me and what worked for me, and I think it's also a good advice, is to speak up. That is something I burned my fingers many times to say something which was maybe not the prominent thing to say at that time, but it's because I believe that it is valuable and that it is important to be said and that it is important to set kind of rules and to then stick to the rules. The most important that I believe that I also see in my management is to not say one thing and to do something different. That is something that would make an organization toxic, where the people would not follow and also not trust anymore. So I think this is nothing, that's nothing special. It's quite universal for business life. As it starts all with trust, with fundamental thoughts about the business, and then to set up some structure and to stick to that structure. But that does not mean that when you make a mistake to not being able to admit that you made a mistake. So I go a certain direction, but when I realize that my course is not the right course, I am okay and to stand and to say I made a mistake and to make a course correction.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that makes, I mean, in the end, I'm a human being and everybody is. I'm in that position.
Perfect.
Exactly. Nobody's perfect. And I think showing these kind of weaknesses is also a kind of strength towards your team. And that makes you more reachable for your team. And that's some kind of advice I would give to everybody is just not try to be something that you are not.
Now that I start to get to know you better, I mean, we've met probably 2 years ago through the exclusive executive society, but you are extremely authentic, easy to talk to. I really resonate a lot with the values, the leader that you seem to be. So I really appreciate you taking the time here. Now, last question. As we always love to say at Exclusive Executive Society, we are here because we want to connect with like-minded people, decision makers, other GMs, CEOs, presidents like you. So who should reach out to you, maybe through LinkedIn or so? Who should connect with you, or are you looking for something?
Well, anybody, look, there is not one. The reason why I'm at Exclusive Executives is mainly because I like socializing. And socializing also in a professional environment, like with exclusive executives. Now the point is, they're from all different kind of industries. You said you were with HP. Now you're doing this great
Training,
coaching. Sorry, didn't get. But mainly for me, it is I'm open to anything. As long as I can also learn or can participate in helping somebody to give advice or to get advice or to grow. In the end, for me, it's always a learning, and learning never stops.
That's true. And it's all about give and take.
Yes.
And balance. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, guys. I would love to hear of what you have learned, what kind of inspiration you got from listening to Mustafa. Write it in the chat if you like today's session. Why not share it with your friends or your colleagues? Have a good day.